Welcome to my channel StarWire Daily. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Picture this. You're at the peak of your career, cameras flashing, thousands watching your every move, when suddenly the one person you never expected to see again appears in the crowd. Your heart stops. Your hands tremble. And in that moment, everything you've worked so hard to compartmentalize comes flooding back like a tidal wave. This isn't just another tennis story, darling. This is about vulnerability in its rawest form, about the ghosts that follow us even to our greatest triumphs, and about a moment that reminded us all that beneath the athletic prowess and media-trained smiles, our favorite stars are achingly, beautifully human. Welcome back to StarWire Daily, where we dive deep into the stories that matter, the moments that move us, and the truths that often hide behind the spotlight. September at the U.S. Open in New York City. The air is electric, the stakes are impossibly high, and for Czech tennis sensation Karolina Muchová, everything should have been perfect. She'd fought her way through grueling matches, her forehand was singing, her confidence was soaring, but sometimes life has other plans. It started as whispers in the VIP section, eagle-eyed fans with their phones ready, social media detectives doing what they do best. Someone had spotted him. David Kotaiza, the man who once held Karolina's heart and, according to those closest to the situation, still held pieces of it even after their very public, very messy breakup just 8 months prior. Now, let me paint you a picture of who David is, because this isn't just any ex-boyfriend situation. We're talking about a successful entrepreneur, devastatingly handsome in that understated European way, with connections that run deep in Prague's elite circles. The kind of man who collects vintage watches and speaks 4 languages fluently, who supported Karolina through her early career struggles when prize money was tight and dreams felt impossibly distant. They were Prague's golden couple for 3 beautiful years. She, the rising tennis star with fire in her eyes and determination in every serve. He, the steady presence in the player's box, the one who knew exactly what to say after devastating losses and crushing victories alike. Their Instagram feeds told the story of a love affair that seemed pulled from a European romance film. Weekend getaways to the Moravian countryside, cozy dinners in hidden Prague restaurants, his arms wrapped around her shoulders as she held up trophy after trophy. But here's what the carefully curated social media posts never showed you. The growing tension as Karolina's career demands intensified, the missed calls during training camps, the silent dinners when exhaustion had drained every word from her vocabulary. Success, as intoxicating as it is, demands sacrifices that not every relationship can survive. The end came last January, just weeks before the Australian Open. Those who witnessed it described it as brutal in its honesty. 2 people who loved each other deeply, but had grown into different people with incompatible dreams. David wanted stability, a life they could build together in Prague. Karolina needed the freedom to chase greatness across continents, to pour every ounce of herself into a sport that gave back so little guaranteed return. And then there he was, 8 months later, sitting 3 rows behind her coaching team at the U.S. Open. Not there by accident. David doesn't do anything by accident. Sources close to the situation suggest he'd flown in specifically to watch her play, something that would have been romantic in another lifetime, but felt like salt in still healing wounds in this one. The match itself was poetry in motion until it wasn't. Karolina was dominating. Her signature backhand cross-court winner painting lines with surgical precision. But something shifted in the second set. Tennis fans who've watched her for years noticed it immediately. The slight hesitation on crucial points, the way her eyes would dart toward the stands between serves, the almost imperceptible shake in her hands during changeovers. It was during the 3rd set tiebreak when everything unraveled. 7-all, match point for her opponent, 30,000 people holding their breath, and that's when their eyes met across the stadium. Time stopped. In that fraction of a second, every shared memory, every whispered promise, every tear shed in Prague hotel rooms came flooding back. She double faulted. Match over. What happened next was something you rarely see in professional tennis. As her opponent celebrated and the crowd began to file out, Karolina didn't retreat to the locker room with her team. Instead, she stood there at the net, racket hanging limply in her hand, tears streaming down her face in a way that had nothing to do with losing a tennis match and everything to do with losing pieces of herself she thought she'd learned to live without. The cameras, always hungry for these raw moments, captured it all. But they couldn't capture what happened next. The 20-minute conversation in the tunnel between Karolina and David, facilitated by her longtime coach who recognized that some wounds need to be acknowledged before they can heal. Those who were there described it as heartbreaking and beautiful simultaneously. Two people who'd shared everything trying to find closure in a concrete hallway, while the echo of the crowd still rang in their ears. David, according to sources, told her how proud he was of everything she'd accomplished. Karolina, finally able to speak her truth, explained how loving tennis meant loving the loneliness that came with it, how success required a selfishness that love couldn't survive. But here's what makes this story so much more than typical celebrity drama. It's about the cost of chasing greatness, about the relationships we sacrifice on the altar of ambition, and about learning that sometimes loving someone means letting them become who they're meant to be, even if that person can't include you. In the weeks following the U.S. Open, something beautiful began to emerge from the ashes of that devastating moment. Karolina's game, freed from the emotional weight she'd been carrying, began to soar to new heights. It was as if finally confronting the ghost that had been haunting her serves had unlocked something powerful within her. Tennis insiders began noticing subtle changes, a new confidence in her movement, a fearlessness in her shot selection that hadn't been there before. Her post-match interviews revealed glimpses of a woman who'd made peace with the choices that had shaped her path, who understood that growth sometimes requires shattering before rebuilding. And David? Well, sources suggest he returned to Prague with his own sense of closure, finally understanding that loving someone sometimes means cheering for their dreams from a distance, that the greatest gift you can give someone is the space to become extraordinary. The tennis world loves a comeback story, but this wasn't about returning to form. This was about evolution, about a woman who'd learned to carry her scars as strength rather than burden. Every match since that day has been infused with a rawness, an emotional honesty that makes her victories feel deeper, more meaningful. Because here's the truth that celebrity culture often masks. Our favorite stars aren't immune to heartbreak, to the messy complications of love lost and dreams pursued. They carry the same vulnerabilities we all do, the same fears about whether the sacrifices we make for our ambitions will be worth it in the end. Karolina's tears at the U.S. Open weren't just about losing a match or seeing an ex-lover. They were about the universal human experience of wondering whether the path we've chosen, with all its lonely victories and crowded emptiness, is leading us toward who we're meant to become or away from who we used to be. What captivates me most about this story isn't the drama or the tabloid-worthy headlines. It's the reminder that growth often happens in public for our favorite celebrities, under lights so bright they illuminate every crack in the facade, every moment of doubt that we all carry but rarely have to display for the world to dissect. Karolina Muchová's tears were honest in a way that celebrity culture rarely allows, vulnerable in a way that makes us remember why we fell in love with these athletes in the first place. Not just for their ability to hit perfect shots, but for their ability to show us what courage looks like when it's tested, what resilience looks like when it's earned rather than performed. And perhaps that's the most beautiful part of this entire story. Sometimes our most devastating moments become the foundation for our greatest triumphs. Sometimes the tears that feel like endings are actually beginnings in disguise. Sometimes facing the ghosts that haunt us is the only way to discover the strength we never knew we possessed. So the next time you watch Karolina play, remember that every serve carries the weight of choices made. Every victory bears the imprint of love lost and strength found. Every tear shed was an investment in the woman she was becoming. Because that's what makes her story so compelling, so utterly human. It reminds us that our favorite stars are just like us, trying to figure out how to love and lose and dream and sacrifice and somehow, impossibly, find meaning in the beautiful mess of it all. What do you think about Karolina's emotional journey? Have you ever had to choose between love and your dreams? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing your stories and perspectives on these deeply human moments that remind us we're all just trying to figure it out as we go. If this story moved you the way it moved me, show some love with a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the real stories behind the headlines. Because here at StarWire Daily, we believe the most interesting stories aren't the ones that make the front page. They're the ones that remind us of our shared humanity, one beautiful, complicated moment at a time. Until next time, keep chasing your dreams, even when they ask you to sacrifice pieces of your heart along the way.